up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. Really appreciate you guys coming through, and make sure you hit that subscribe button. As you know, it's free. It's right there. Definitely need y'all to hit that because we're trying to keep growing and bringing you guys as many interviews as possible, as often as possible. So please subscribe, like, and share our content so we can help keep growing. Now, today we have the honor and privilege of being joined by High C.
Hey. What's happening with you, Soren?
Man, I'm just glad that get to make this happen. You know, for those, some people saw us on Rhodium Radio, 100 episode. That was really exciting. I was glad to do that. And now I'm glad you're able to come through to Unique Access. So, yeah, thank you.
No, I appreciate you, man. Shit, sitting down with you, man, I done made it, man. I'm big time now. Sitting down with Soren Baker.
Yeah. So now so here we are. But
yes, sir.
The thing that always amazes me is how music travels, because I really got to know you and Tony A through Scandalous, but I'd known you through, of course, like Quik is the Name and the Second to None album and stuff that came out before Scandalous. But yeah. I'd also heard only a little bits of some of the mixtapes that you guys did at Rhodium and different things. So for you getting in the game and getting on those mixtapes, what made Rhodium kind of something that you gravitated towards as a kid?
Well, the Rhodium was a spot where everybody went. If you had some kind of DJing situation that you was trying to work out, or you even just wanted to get like stuff that you couldn't really get on the radio, because back then it wasn't really like they was playing everything. If you wanted to get some of your hardcore shit, like just some of the mixtapes of some of your artists that you knew that was kind of local but coming up, everybody just kind of gravitated toward the Rhodium swap meet, because I mean, you could get, when you're DJing back then, you needed 2 copies of everything. So we just went there to pretty much buy records, and just, it was kind of like the culture, like what we had. It was kind of different from New York, but it still was our little thing, to where we went to the Rhodium and we could hear stuff that we never heard before on the radio. That was good. Right.
And what was the main thing as a kid that drew you to want to try to pursue music as a career?
Well, I can take it back, way back to when moms and my grandmother and them played Al Green, or they played like Fantastic Voyage, and they always would call you in the living room and shit to like, hey, do this dance that you're doing, and do the robot and doing this. I was that kid that they would call, or I was the kid that they would call to say, hey, put this record on. Like, it wasn't no 6-changer CD back then, or you know how we got the CD changers, or the kids don't even know about them no more, but like it wasn't no streaming Pandora type of shit. So they would actually call somebody to put the 45 little thing that you had to find. They always be lost for some reason. Put the 45 thing on there, put the record on there. Hey, Croft, play it again. I want to hear that song. So I was like the quote unquote DJ of the house party.
And then, did everybody always shorten your name to Croft from early on?
Yep, Croft. And then the homies just started calling me Croft Dog. Like when I hear the Croft Dog, I'm like, I know that's somebody that I really know. But now since I'm putting it out there, I'm sure they're gonna be like Croft Dog. But yeah, that was like my little handle since I could remember.
Okay. And then so then getting into music, what made you want to change it from a hobby or something that was cool to actually trying to make it a job and make it your career?
Just the infatuation, just the feeling that I got from music. When I heard certain songs, it just made me like come out, like your skin kind of crawled. I don't know if you had that same feeling, so you could probably relate to what I'm saying. Like when you heard a certain, like when I heard Atomic Dog and I hear that shit going, and I know it's going backwards, I'm like, man, this shit is way before its time. And he like talking about certain stuff where it just certain songs that just did it for me. And I was the kid that played like alto sax. Like I really was into music. I played the alto sax in junior high, a little bit in high school, and was like getting into sheet music and stuff like that. But like when we started doing the hip hop shit, it kind of never meshed together. It wasn't like, it didn't, we was on the drum machines and shit. So we left the instruments alone.
And were you born in Louisiana?
Yep. Born in Baton Rouge.
Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge.
How old were you and where did you move when you came to California?
Born in Baton Rouge, man. I just came out like the stork. I just was delivered there, and probably like not even a year later, just right in California. I lived. My grandmother lived on 94th and Fig, right off the blade. We was right in the cut. We was right in the in the dirty South, as they call it, right then and there, South
Yep.
Central.
Yeah, I've been there many times, that area.
Yeah, yeah. That was the stroll, the blade, Figueroa.
Yep.
Some crazy shit on there, bro.
I was about to say, you can see a lot on Figueroa. A lot.
Hell yeah, man. It's still like that too. Soren, it's still popping, bro.
Yeah,
It's still popping.
that's wild. And then,
Yep.
when did you guys relocate?
My mom's actually from my pop, she got remarried. So we had the house in Compton, and my mom stayed in Compton. My grandmother stayed in South Central. So I would spend time between back and forth. I mean, we had other little spots between like the Compton and South Central transition, because it was a thing to where my mother her husband rather, was going to court and trying to figure out this other stuff with his ex-wife. So we had to get a little spot to live in for a minute till they get that whole court thing situated with the house. He ended up getting a house, and we just moved back to Compton and just took it from there. And that's where I met all of, I mean, we was little, but that's where I met all the homies that, just kind of grew my roots right there.
Right. And what do you
Yeah.
remember, if anything, was a big difference at the time? I guess this would have been in the 80s at some point, between Compton and South Central.
Man, to me, the big difference was like I was the kid actually on Figueroa, 94th and Fig, with my homeboys. They was like, we had just a melting pot back then, man. It was like Mexicans, it was blacks. So I had a lot of Mexican homies, and we used to like we had to, I don't even know if fuck it, I'm gonna say it, but we had the fighting roosters. You know what I mean? The game, they call them the Gamecocks or whatever. We had the fighting roosters, so we used to do a lot of shit with that. And when we finally went to, like, my mom's, we moved out to Compton. When I stopped staying with my grandmother, went out there, man, it was even bigger. They had horses. They had I mean, it was like a whole fucking rodeo. My sister used to ride in the rodeo, but then we ended up getting horses. It was like fighting chickens. It was different. We rode our motorcycles in the street like you see these dudes now riding dirt bikes in the street. We was doing that shit in the 80s, bro. Like motorcycles, four-wheelers, because Compton was kind of, back then, it's more development now, but it was open fields, like a lot of open fields, and you see dudes, the black cowboys riding their horses and shit. It was to me, it was like, damn, this shit is dope. But it was like the only thing that made Compton kind of crazy was it was a whole bunch of fucking sets crowded into this one little city. So you go a couple of blocks, you in this hood, and you go a couple of more blocks over here, you in this hood. If you cross this street, you in this hood. So it was some different shit.
That's one of the amazing things, since you brought it up about Compton and getting to learn about it and go there several times over the years and be there, and a lot of people from there. It's just wild that not only were there dozens of amazing artists that came from the little city, but like you said, there's so many gangs, so many little city, so many musicians, and it's tiny.
Yeah, it's tiny. Yeah, it's tiny, bro. It's like, it's cliques everywhere, man. And it's like certain schools, like if you go to school and like you live in this area, you have to go to school in that area, kind of like the zoning. But sometimes you could be on the borderline, and that was the case for me. Like I lived on the borderline in high school where they wanted me to go to Compton High. I went there for a little bit, but I couldn't. I'm really not supposed to be there. Just where I live at, you know what I mean? And it's just some different shit, you know. So I had to end up going to Centennial and being where I was supposed to be at in the beginning. But they had a couple of guys that we don't call it middle school back then. We called it junior high, telling my age. So in junior high, they had a couple of dudes that used to go to junior high with me, and I looked out for them. And then when I got to high school out there, they was looking at me like, what you doing here? And I'm like, shit, well, you was right here in our city, in our part of town, in junior high, and we wasn't tripping. I looked out for you. But you know how dudes are. They get somewhere around their friends, they get all big, you know. So when Compton is I love the city, bro. It's just unique.
Absolutely. So then, going back to Rhodium, how did you get to have a relationship with Steve Yano?
Well, being the hustler that I am, I was like one of those kids that was always in the street, and I always like having my own shit, Soren. I just never waited for nobody and was just one of those ambitious little kids that like to go get it, you know. So I had a job. It was a weekend job, and I had a job selling women's clothing, like pants that I think it was Yes brand or No brand. One of the little guys I had, like back then, it was one of those brands that he had. And my guy, he was French, and he used to talk to women. He was a little short guy, a little chubby fat guy, but I worked for him setting up the stands and helping him sell pants and just to make my money over the weekend. So I would be back there helping him, and then every time I get a break, I hear this music and shit that was bumping at the Rhodium, like music, and I'm like, damn, who playing this music? That's like the music that we listen to is like some good shit. So I would walk over there and come to find out it was like Steve Yano. Now, mind you, Steve Yano is Asian, and I'm like, he's from Japan, Japanese, rest in peace. That's my boy, man. And shout out Susan, his wife, and the kids too. But he was like, he just knew his shit. He knew every record, every song, I'm like, how does he know about shit that I don't even know about? So that just tells you can't judge a book by its cover when it comes to like hip hop. It's just a movement, bro. Like he has some of the best shit that you've ever heard, like records, the breakbeat records. And I'm sure you know what the breakbeat records are, but for the fans, they might not know. But these are records that have breaks in them that we used to sample. Like when I got my SP and my 3000 and shit, I would sample little breaks to like make actual songs off of. So he had all the latest breakbeat records. He was like, man, how in the hell do Steve have all this shit? And it just, you know, that's kind of how I gravitated towards it. Just, you know, making money on the weekend when I was going to school and shit and go get some money.
And then what, I remember that Steve had actually introduced you to Tony A. So
yeah.
You didn't know he was Mexican before you had met him?
Nah, I didn't know he was Mexican either. So it was really like, damn, like my boy Tony A, he was dope, man. Like I hear the mixtapes and shit, and I'm like telling Steve, like, man, let me jump on one of these tapes because in my mind, like I was like the rapper I used to battle at school. Like to me, nobody couldn't fuck with me. And I was just like one of the ones that just rapped all day, battled. I had notebooks. I just, you know, one of them dudes that was like, oh, here he come. He got some other shit to say or some rapping shit to say. I was just one of those guys that kept pushing that angle. So he was like, he finally gave me a chance. He was like, I'm gonna hook you up. And then when I saw Tony, I'm like, oh shit, Tony Alvarez. It was like, okay, I didn't know he was so. It's like one of them jokes when you tell a joke. It was a black guy, a Japanese guy, and a Mexican. So we just hooked up, man, and just took it from there. It was like gravy.
Okay, and
You know?
I think it's important too because I've talked to Tony about this and other people, but the Rhodium, because even I somehow got some mixtapes all the way in Maryland, and I think it's amazing that what you guys were creating there in like South Los Angeles was able to spread throughout the country. But why do you think that those tapes didn't get quote unquote as famous as like the Red Alerts or the Mr. Magic tapes?
Just in my opinion, just because of like the technology or just word of mouth, like we didn't have it as good as we have it now. Like if we had that shit where we could just like how kids can just press a button and your shit could be here to Germany or London or whatever, like that them tapes would have been booming, bro. Because like I said on the other interview, like when we was on tour, me and Quik, we was together, Second to None, AMG, on tour with EPMD and Guru and Too Short. And when DJ Scratch heard the tape, he was blown away, like, fuck, how the fuck they doing? Like we was tracking shit and like it was good shit. The tape was good. Just far as like the word of mouth, we just didn't have that internet access or the social media platform to promote and market certain shit, you know? To me, it's like one of the dudes in the neighborhood that could hoop his ass off but never made it to the league type of shit.
Right. Okay. So then with the 3 or 4 albums that were coming out in like 91 with Quik, Second to None, You, and AMG, what was that recording like, I guess, in 89, 90? Were you guys always knowing where the songs were going to end up, or how did that happen?
That process, man, to me probably is one of like the greatest times to me in my career that I ever had. Just imagine being young. I was a teenager. I'm with the homies. We talking about all kinds of crazy shit. We learning how to curse. So everything was fuck this, fuck that, motherfucker, bitch, pussy, this, that. So it was like one of the things, learning how to curse, and we being creative and artists at the same time. So to me, it was just gravy, bro. And we were still trying to find ourselves. AMG, his name, he had a different name, and then he came out with the AMG name. Second to None was always like together, they related. Me and Quik is like childhood friends. That's my brother from another mother. So we always like kind of came around the corner from each other and talked, and always shot the shit and fucked around before we kind of had the record deal. So me and him was like just super tight. And then when we got together, we would just put on shit and just start kind of just doing shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I got a verse for this, or I got a verse for that, and just start doing it. And Quik always had like fire tracks.
Be sure to check out the History of Gangster Rap by Soren Baker. He's official.
History of Gangster Rap features exclusive interviews with Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, MC Ren, the D.O.C, and dozens of others. The History of Gangster Rap, a definitive look at how Los Angeles changed rap forever.
In Los Angeles, the streets definitely set the tone of the hip-hop music.
At 19, I got a $50,000 car.
My whole angle always was, I'll be street, but I will always tell you the horrors that go along with this life.
There will be penalties and casualties for just wearing the wrong color in somebody's neighborhood.
And once gangster rap made it from the streets to the TV, the genre exploded.
With Fab 5 on Yo MTV back with NWA.
Yo MTV, it just catapulted us from being local heroes to national gangbang rappers.
The History of Gangster Rap discusses it all from 1980 up till today.
It's always gonna be shit happening in the streets. You know what I mean? So it's always gonna be something to talk about.
The History of Gangster Rap in stores now.